Triple M's Hot Breakfast. It is 6:45. The Royal Commission into the banks continues, and this week they've been focusing DAS on basically shoddy small business lending practices by a number of the banks, including Westpac and ANZ, including documents being falsified, wildly inaccurate business plans securing funding, and that has been probed. Chris Bayliss is a guest this morning. He's the Chief Customer Officer for Judo, which is a new challenger bank, if you like, which hands out loans to small business from $250,000 up to $5 million. It's only launched in March. This is not a paid ad, by the way, or anything else. I'm just saying this by way of introducing Chris. And formerly, Chris, you were?
I was with, I've had 30 years in banking in the UK, New Zealand and here, but I was 17 years with National Australia Bank. And prior to that, 10 years at Barclays Bank.
So can I put to you, is this a surprise then with your large knowledge of banks, particularly in Great Britain, where they've had some problems over the global financial crisis as well, and now this Royal Commission, that these questions are finally being asked?
Oh, look, I don't think it's a surprise. There's been a number of reviews that have been taking place over the last decade into the banking sector. But no one in banking can be anything but disappointed and quite frankly embarrassed by the findings that are coming out at the moment.
Embarrassed that they're coming out, or embarrassed with the practices?
Embarrassed at the practices. It's the way that banking has become industrialised over the last decade, and the focus on profit instead of the customer, and the way that true relationships have been lost is an embarrassment.
Sort of thing you need to keep quiet at the moment at a barbecue, Chris. What do you do for a living? Banker's not right up there in Australia at the moment, given the stories that are coming out. And we are making a little bit of light of it, but some of the personal stories are just horrific, devastating, lives lost effectively when people get into financial ruin. We've seen the effects of that at a greater level. Just to break it down, what has gone wrong? Why have we lost so much trust in the big banks? Why has there been such practice that is lacking in integrity? And you can go right through to all the stories coming out of the Royal Commission at the moment.
Yeah, look, I think it comes down to, first and foremost, the banks have industrialised their processes over the last 15 years.
What do you mean by that?
I mean the use of technology to streamline process, to take cost out, to take the person out of the process, to the extent that really the obsession has become with cost, and the focus on the customer has been completely lost. Also, particularly over the last 15 years, a real sales culture has started to dominate the banks. So when I started my career in the 1980s, it was very much about the customer. It was all about service. It was always about putting the customer first. Profit was a secondary consideration. What's occurred now is that the banks, they've become profit-making machines, very, very focused on reducing costs through industrialised process.
So the focus went on to the shareholders,
absolutely,
which is the get out, but it also goes back to key performance indicators for executives.
That's right.
Who are always driving an increase in returns. So that push for returns goes one of two ways. You get more customers, and if you can cut costs, and if you can do both at the same time, then you get a nice little gap in the appropriate graphs that gives you the profits. So where is the fine balance between a profitable bank, which we need to have, one that returns people's money for their superannuation and their investments, and one that's actually not running a mafia-based organisation almost in the way that they go after people, which we've seen in a lot of overseas banks?
I think you have to go back to basics, and that's what we're doing in Judo Capital, which is very much the belief that if you fundamentally have happy customers that want to bank with you, that refer you to your friends and family, then you'll grow, and the profit will just flow from that, and then those profits just get reinvested back into your customers. It's the difference between taking a short-term lens, as you said, Eddie, where it's all about next week's profit or next month's profit, versus investing in your business in a more sustainable way. But the fundamentals of any business haven't changed. It's just
so put that in. Give us an example of the difference between what you're trying to achieve and what was compared to what is these days. So I'm a plumber. I've got plenty of tradies. I want to come in. I want to start my own business. I need to buy a couple of cars. I need to get my tools. I need a bit of cash flow. What do we do? What anyone who's out there dreaming of starting their own business, which is the platform that keeps Australia's economy alive, what do you do?
So the tagline that we're using in Judo is banking how it used to be, banking how it should be. So that's very much a focus on having a proper relationship banker, as you would have done in the 1980s and the 1990s. Someone who can actually understand your business, advise you, not there to sell products. We don't have any sales targets at all in our organisation, so none of our bankers or our individuals professionals are there to sell products. They're there to sit down with the customer, understand their requirements, advise them on their financing needs. And so what I would urge your customers to do is to demand that type of relationship as opposed to sitting in front of a salesperson who's there simply motivated to sell product.
Well, remember back in the day, the family banker was a family friend, and they went through your
they were
life,
pillars of the
and
community.
it was
That's right.
part of what you had. And you grew up, you wore your suit to go in and meet your local banker.
Well, you had to go and get a reference. You had to get it signed by your bank
That's
manager.
right.
Absolutely.
Yep,
It's
absolutely.
him or the priest. There
I
you
mean,
go.
those
There's a couple.
individuals were highly regarded. They're
Yeah.
highly respected, and customers went to them for advice.
So, Chris, what's the big rort? What is it that says it going? Where did it change? Give us an example of how people are getting stitched in banks.
Oh, look, it's changed because I'm a great believer that you get what you reward, and I think the big thing that the banks have to look at is their reward mechanisms. So their staff are motivated to sell products, to get short-term results. And if that's what you motivate your staff to do, then that's what you're going to get.
So it goes back to that point.
and it
the
goes
key
back to
performance
confidence.
indicators.
Yes, it's exactly right, Eddie. And a real focus on the customer, and that's easier said than done because measuring customer satisfaction and what have you is a longer term objective, and so you have to motivate your staff to look at customers in a different light, not just someone to sell products to.
Got to take a break, Chris. We appreciate you dropping by. Judo Bank is an alternative. We're going through the heartache of the Royal Commission, and your timing might be perfect in terms of a solution, an alternative going back to the morals of banking and the relationships you're talking about. Thanks for dropping by this morning.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
That was Chris Baylis, Chief Customer Officer for Judo Capital, a new challenger bank arriving in this city in Melbourne. It's 9 minutes to 7 for Carlton Draft, Triple M's Hot Breakfast.